Afrobeats has gone global. And the interesting thing is how it's not only being carried by artists from the continent, but also by a growing wave of talent right here in Canada. Toronto has always been a hub of cultural fusion, and now a new generation of Canadian Afrobeats artists are shaping a sound that's theirs, polished, emotional, and unmistakably local. These are the voices you should be watching, streaming, and backing, because they're about to change what Afrobeats outside Africa feels like. AJ Styles is one of the names you'll hear again and again. People know him as a promoter and a host, but he's also a recording artist with tracks that show he understands the dual life of many in the diaspora. Songs like A Rent and Toronto to Soweto aren't just catchy. They map the way someone can live between Lagos and Toronto, translating nostalgia into hooks and melodies that feel both warm and celebratory. What makes AJ interesting as an artist is that he's building across sectors. He has the cultural know-how to deliver an event that hits and the artistry to put himself on the record when the moment calls for it. That combination gives him credibility in ways a straight-up promoter or a straight-up musician doesn't always get. He understands both sides of the mic. Then there's Taene, a rising female voice who already commands attention. She's a singer with a voice that's both soft and magnetic, a tone that slides into a hook and refuses to leave your head. There's sex appeal in the way she phrases a line. Sure, but it's also more than that. It's confidence, warmth, and a kind of vulnerability that makes her music stick. In a space that's male-heavy, Taene brings a feminine edge that's sensual without being cheap, honest, grown, and full of presence. Her songs work late at night in the city and on intimate playlists, and that versatility is how she's building a following. Expect her to collaborate with DJs and producers who know how to highlight that voice, the kind of producers who leave space in a track so her tone can do the heavy lifting. Nonso Amadi has been on a steady path for years. Born in Nigeria and grown into his craft, Nonso brings a blend of R&B sensitivity and Afrobeats rhythm that feels like a bridge between soulful songwriting and modern African sound. He's got the kind of songwriting that suits late-night drives and slow, intimate moments. But his voice works in a club too, when producers give him the right beat. Having someone like Nonso in the Canadian scene matters because he shows the world you can come from Nigeria, refine your craft in Canada, and still keep the authenticity that makes Afrobeats and Afro R&B so special. Beyond these names, there's a pipeline of talent that's quietly leveling up. Toronto's producers and beat makers are finally getting heard, and that matters. Artists are no longer dependent on overseas producers to make them sound global. The next hit could be made in Scarborough, Brampton, or a downtown basement studio. That local production power is turning Toronto into a place where artists can create entire projects that feel international without leaving the city. The thing about Canadian Afrobeats is it's hybrid by nature. You'll hear high-life undercurrents, R&B textures, amapiano swings, and Toronto's moody, cinematic energy wrapped into a single track. That mixture makes the music familiar enough for Afrobeats fans, but fresh enough that global listeners notice. It's not mimicry, it's interpretation. Canadian artists bring the immigrant experience to their music. Sometimes it's longing, sometimes it's flex, sometimes it's quiet joy. That emotional range is what sets them apart. DJs and promoters have been crucial in making these artists visible. Local tastemakers like DJ Magic Flows, DJ Damager, and DJ Havel are the gateway between the studio and the stage. They test new music in real rooms, see what lands, and push the tracks that move crowds. If a new artist gets consistent spins from those DJs, their name spreads fast. In a city that loves live experience, real-time feedback on the floor can change a career. The pathway works like this. An artist drops a track. A DJ slips it into a set at a day party or a university event. The crowd reacts, clips go online, and suddenly playlists and promoters take notice. It's an organic cycle, but it only works if DJs and promoters are willing to invest in local talent, and many of them are. That the infrastructure has improved. There's now more willingness to take chances on handmade, local records. Other Canadian artists are worth watching even if they aren't household names yet. You've got singer-songwriters blending Afrobeats with alt R&B, rappers flipping Afro rhythms into urban anthems, and producers making beats that demand to be heard on festival stages. The diversity of these sounds is Toronto's secret weapon. It means the Canadian Afrobeats movement isn't a single lane. It's a whole highway of subgenres and vibes. One important thing to call out is representation. These artists aren't only making music for their own communities, they're carrying the image of a new Canadian identity. When a Canadian Afrobeats artist headlines a festival stage, it's a moment of pride for young kids who grew up balancing cultures. That visibility has ripple effects. Kids see someone who looks like them on stage and start dreaming. The industry starts to pay attention, and over time the pipeline matures. That pathway is what turns a scene into an industry. There's also opportunity in collaborations. Established artists and DJs bring younger acts onto bills. When a promoter books AJ Styles to perform or spin alongside a rising act, that exposure can mean more streams, more follows, and real money opportunities. Social media accelerates this. A single viral clip of a rising artist on a big stage can translate into playlist ads, interviews, and more shows. That's why building networks is as important as making music. The two go hand in hand. The artist development model in Canada is changing too. Rather than chasing an overseas deal, artists now leverage local festivals, campus events, and club nights to build a track record. They release EPs, focus on placement with influential DJs, and use visuals to construct an image. That strategy works better here because audiences respond to consistency. Toronto listeners will back an artist who drops songs regularly, plays good shows, and stays visible in the right circles. It's slow growth, but it builds real fans. You can already see some patterns of success. Artists who mix authenticity with strong visuals and the right DJ support tend to break through faster. The trick is to balance the raw with the polished. Keep the emotion and the story but present it in a way that playlists, radio, and live audiences can connect with. That's a lesson many of the promising Canadians are learning fast. There's also a business side in motion. Brands are starting to notice Afrobeats culture in Canada and want in, from fashion collabs to event partnerships. That creates revenue paths outside streaming and shows, and that money can help artists reinvest in their craft. We're at the point where a smart drop strategy and a solid live presence can open sponsorships, collaborations, and licensing deals. The artists who understand that business will live longer. But let's be clear, the scene's heart is still the music. When AJ Styles drops a new record and performs at one of his events, or when Taene steps on a small stage and leaves everyone quiet because of her voice, it reminds you why this movement matters. It's not about labels or charts. It's about creating moments that stick. If you're looking for who to watch, don't only check the streaming numbers. Look at who DJs are spinning, who's selling out small rooms, who gets reposted by tastemakers, and who's building a consistent fan base. Sometimes the most important artist is the one quietly building a catalog and relationships. Those are the ones who last. The Canadian Afrobeat story is still early, but it's moving fast. Artists like AJ Styles and Taene are proof that Canada can produce Afrobeats that matters, music that speaks to the diaspora, to multicultural crowds, and to the global listener. With producers improving, DJs supporting, and promoters willing to take risks, Toronto is becoming a serious node in the global Afrobeats network. So keep streaming, keep showing up to the small shows, and share the music when you love it. The artists building now are the ones who will headline bigger stages in the next few years. Support. It matters more than you think. In a few years, you might wake up and realize that the next international Afrobeat star came from a Toronto basement. And when that happens, you'll be able to say you were here early, you saw it, you listened, you supported. That's the kind of legacy Canadian Afrobeats artists are building. Local roots, global reach. If you enjoyed this, drop a comment naming who you think will blow up next. Stream the music, follow the DJs who spin the new sounds, and if you're in Toronto, show up to the nights that champion local talent. This isn't just a playlist, it's the start of something bigger, and Canada's artists are ready to be heard.